On a chilly night along a crowded city street, a single father had just finished his second shift, eager to get home to his little girl. But suddenly, he saw a well-dressed woman stumble and collapse on the sidewalk. The busy crowd rushed past. No one stopped. Without hesitation, he ran to her side, performing chest compressions, fighting for every breath she had left. He had no idea that this very moment would change the course of his life forever. Before we go back, let us know where you're watching from. And subscribe, because tomorrow I've got something extra special for you. The number 6 train screeched into the station at 8:47 p.m., and Jamal Washington felt every one of his 37 years in his bones. His work boots dragged against the platform as he climbed the stairs to street-level shoulders hunched forward from 12 straight hours of lifting boxes at the Brooklyn warehouse. His second shift had just ended, and all he wanted was to get home to Destiny. Manhattan's evening rush still clogged the sidewalks even at this hour. Business people in expensive suits rushed past phones glued to their ears. Street vendors called out last-minute deals. Car horns blared in an endless symphony of impatience. Jamal barely registered any of it anymore. This was just the soundtrack of survival. He stopped at a corner bodega, the fluorescent lights harsh against his tired eyes. The sandwich he'd brought from home sat untouched in his lunch bag, saved for tomorrow to stretch the grocery budget another day. But Destiny had texted earlier about a school project, so he grabbed a pack of poster board and colored markers. $13 he hadn't planned to spend. He handed over the cash without complaint. Back on the street, Jamal checked his phone. 8:52 p.m. If he caught the next bus in 6 minutes, he'd be home by 9:20. Destiny would still be awake. They could talk about her day before she went to bed. That's when he saw her, a white woman in her early 50s, maybe 100 feet ahead. Designer suit, the kind that probably cost more than his monthly rent. She'd stopped walking and was leaning heavily against a building, one hand pressed flat against the brick wall, her other hand clutched at her chest. Jamal slowed his pace, watching. Maybe she was just tired. Maybe she'd had too much to drink. Maybe it was none of his business. The woman's knees buckled. She collapsed onto the sidewalk like a puppet with cut strings, her leather briefcase skidding across the concrete. Her body convulsed once-twice. Even from this distance, Jamal could hear the terrible gasping sound she made, fighting for air that wouldn't come. The crowd didn't stop. People stepped around her, some glancing down with mild curiosity before moving on. A teenage kid pulled out his phone and started recording. A businessman in a gray suit looked at his watch and kept walking. Jamal's lunch bag hit the pavement. His legs were moving before his brain caught up. He pushed through the flow of pedestrians, his heart hammering against his ribs. No, not like this. Not again. Not when he could do something. He dropped to his knees beside her, the rough concrete biting through his work pants. Up close, he could see the grayish tint to her skin, the way her lips had started to turn blue. Her eyes were wide open, terrified and unfocused. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" His voice came out steadier than he felt. "Ma'am, I'm going to help you." She didn't respond. Her chest barely moved. "Someone call 911 inches!" Jamal shouted to the crowd. Nobody moved. "Call 911 right now!" A young woman in yoga pants finally pulled out her phone, her hands shaking as she dialed. Jamal's training kicked in, the mandatory CPR certification the warehouse required every year. He'd sat through those classes half asleep most times, never thinking he'd actually use it. He tilted the woman's head back, checked her airway, and placed his hands in the center of her chest, one over the other. Push hard, push fast. 30 compressions, 2 breaths. Don't think about anything else. His arms burned as he pumped her chest, counting silently. The woman's body jerked with each compression, her designer jacket bunching up beneath his hands. Sweat dripped down his temple despite the cool evening air. 1, 2, 3, 4. The memory hit him without warning. Rashida on the kitchen floor 3 years ago, her body already cooling by the time he'd found her. The aneurysm had been instant, the doctor said later. Nothing anyone could have done. But Jamal had tried anyway, screaming and pumping her chest until the paramedics physically pulled him away. This time would be different. It had to be. 15. 16. 17. "Where's the ambulance?" someone in the crowd asked. "Is she dead?" Should he be doing that? Jamal blocked them out. 28, 29, 30. He bent down, gave 2 rescue breaths, and went back to compressions. His shoulders screamed in protest. His hands were going numb. He didn't stop. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. The crowd parted as 2 paramedics rushed through with their equipment, a stretcher rattling behind them. "I got a pulse," Jamal said, his voice rough. "Weak, but it's there." "Good work," the lead paramedic said, a Hispanic woman with kind eyes and quick hands. Her name tag read Martinez. She immediately took over her partner, moving to the woman's other side with an oxygen mask. "How long was she down?" Martinez asked, attaching monitoring equipment. "Maybe 2 minutes before I got to her. I did CPR for about 3-4 minutes before you arrived. You saved her life." Martinez looked up at him briefly, something like respect in her expression. "What's your name?" "Jamal Washington." But Martinez was already focused back on her patient, calling out vital signs to her partner. They worked with practiced efficiency, loading the woman onto the stretcher. Within 90 seconds, they were pushing her toward the ambulance. Jamal stood up, his knees cracking in protest. His hands were still shaking. He looked down and saw the woman's briefcase lying on its side, papers scattered around it. He gathered them up quickly and handed them to Martinez just as they were loading the stretcher. "Thank you," Martinez said again. "You should be proud." Then they were gone, the ambulance screaming away into Manhattan traffic, its lights painting the buildings red and white. The crowd dispersed immediately, the show over. The teenage kid was probably already uploading his video somewhere. Within 30 seconds, the sidewalk looked exactly as it had before, like nothing had happened at all. Jamal bent down and picked up his lunch bag. The sandwich inside had been crushed. The poster board poked out at an awkward angle, one corner bent. His hands wouldn't stop trembling. He walked to the bus stop on autopilot, his mind replaying the last 10 minutes on an endless loop. The woman's gray face, the compression rhythm, the sirens. He collapsed onto the hard plastic seat and pulled out his phone. 9:14 p.m. He'd missed his bus. His fingers moved across the screen. "Daddy will be home 10 minutes late, baby girl. Love you." Destiny's response came immediately. "Okay, Daddy, I finished my homework." Jamal stared at the message, at the heart emoji. His 9-year-old daughter still wasn't too cool to use. His throat tightened. He put his phone away and pressed his palms against his thighs to stop the shaking. The next bus pulled up. Jamal climbed aboard, found a seat near the back, and watched Manhattan slide past the window. Somewhere in this city, that woman was fighting for her life in an emergency room. Doctors would be working on her running tests, making decisions that would determine whether she saw tomorrow. And here he was, just trying to get home to his daughter. He'd probably never know if the woman survived. That was okay. He'd done what he could, what Rashida would have wanted him to do. That had to be enough. Jamal closed his eyes and let the bus carry him home through the glittering darkness of the city that never cared and never stopped. The bus dropped Jamal off at 9:34 p.m., and he still had 5 flights of stairs to climb. The elevator in their Bronx building had been broken for 6 months. The landlord kept promising to fix it. Nobody believed him anymore. Jamal's legs protested with each step, the day's exhaustion settling deep into his muscles. From the 3rd-floor landing, he could hear Mr. Rodriguez and his wife shouting at each other in Spanish. The walls were so thin he could make out individual words. On the 4th floor, someone's TV blared a basketball game. Normal sounds, home sounds. He reached apartment 5C and paused, hand on the doorknob. Through the door, he could hear Destiny's laughter, bright and clear. Whatever weight he'd been carrying suddenly felt lighter. The door swung open before he could turn his key. "Daddy!" Destiny launched herself at him, arms wrapping tight around his waist. At 9 years old, she barely reached his chest, but her hugs could squeeze the air right out of his lungs. "Hey, baby girl." Jamal dropped his lunch bag and lifted her up, ignoring how his back complained. "You get taller every day, I swear. Mrs. Chen measured me. I grew half an inch since last month." Destiny's face glowed with pride, her cornrows bouncing as she talked. "And I got an A on my math quiz, and Tommy shared his cookies at lunch, and—" "Slow down, sweetness." Jamal laughed, setting her back down. "Let me at least get through the door first." Mrs. Chen emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. She was 72, had lived in the building for 40 years, and watched Destiny 3 evenings a week when Jamal worked his second shift. He paid her what he could. She never complained it wasn't enough. "She ate already," Mrs. Chen said in her accented English. "Chicken nuggets and green beans. Did her homework too. Smart girl, your Destiny." "Thank you, Mrs. Chen. I don't know what we'd do without you." The elderly woman waved him off. "We take care of each other. That's what neighbors do." She patted Destiny's head as she passed. "Be good for your daddy, okay?" "Okay, good night, Mrs. Chen." The door clicked shut, and suddenly it was just the two of them in the small apartment. The living room, kitchen, and dining area were essentially one space. Two tiny bedrooms branched off to the left, one bathroom they shared. 600 square feet of home. But it was clean. The second-hand furniture was arranged with care. Destiny's artwork covered the refrigerator in an explosion of color. And right now, with his daughter chattering about her day, it felt like enough. Jamal's stomach growled, reminding him he'd skipped lunch to save money. "You hungry for anything else, baby?" "No, but you need to eat, I'll help." Destiny was already pulling out a pot, filling it with water. 20 minutes later, they sat across from each other at the small kitchen table. Spaghetti with sauce from a can, boiled collard greens on the side. Simple, cheap, the same meal they'd had 3 times this week. Destiny twirled her fork in the pasta, then looked up at him with those big brown eyes that were so much like Rashida's. "Daddy?" "Yeah, baby." "How come Keisha at school has an iPad and I don't?" Jamal's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. He set it down carefully. "Who's Keisha?" "She's in my class. She brought her iPad for show and tell today. It has games and she can watch movies and everything." Destiny wasn't asking with attitude, just pure curiosity. That somehow made it harder. "I told her I don't have one, and she asked why not." The question sat between them like a weight. Jamal wiped his mouth with a paper napkin, buying himself a few seconds to find the right words. "Baby girl, we have something Keisha might not have." He reached across the table and took her small hand in his. "We have each other. We have love. We have time together every single night. Some kids, their parents are so busy making money, they forget to actually be with their kids. You understand?" Destiny nodded slowly. "So we're rich in the important stuff." "Exactly." Jamal squeezed her hand. "Mommy used to say that all the time, remember?" "I remember." Destiny smiled, that gap-toothed grin that lit up his whole world. "Mommy said love is the best thing you can have." She was right about that. They finished dinner and Destiny helped him wash the dishes. She talked non-stop about her upcoming science project, hands gesturing wildly as she explained her idea. "I want to make a model of a heart, Daddy. A real one like the human heart." She grabbed a piece of paper and started drawing. "See, the blood goes in here, and then it pumps through these parts. And Mrs. Rodriguez said, if I do a really good job, I might win the science fair." "That sounds amazing, sweetheart." "Why a heart?" Destiny's expression turned serious, her 9-year-old face suddenly much older. "Because that's what was wrong with Mommy, right? Her heart stopped working." Jamal's throat tightened. They'd talked about this before, but it never got easier. "That's right, baby. Mommy had something called an aneurysm in her brain. It's like her heart and brain stopped talking to each other. If I learn about hearts really good, maybe I can help other people's mommies not die." "God, this kid." Jamal pulled her into a hug, burying his face in her hair so she wouldn't see the tears stinging his eyes. "You're going to do amazing things, Destiny. I know it. Will you help me build it?" "Of course. We'll figure it out together." By 10 o'clock, Destiny was in bed, her small body curled under the blanket covered in cartoon stars. Jamal sat on the edge of the mattress the same way he did every night. "Tell me about Mommy," Destiny said sleepily. "What do you want to know?" "The story about how you met." Jamal smiled. He'd told this story 100 times, but she never got tired of hearing it. "I was working at a bookstore and your mommy came in looking for a book about gardening. I tried to impress her by recommending one, but I grabbed the wrong book. It was about garden gnomes." Destiny giggled, and she thought it was funny. She laughed so hard she snorted, and I thought, I'm going to marry this woman someday. "And you did, and I did." Jamal kissed her forehead. "Now go to sleep. School tomorrow. Love you, Daddy. Love you more, baby girl." He left her door cracked open the way she liked it, the hallway light spilling into her room. Then he returned to the kitchen and did what he'd been dreading all day. The bills were spread across the table like an accusation. Rent $1,400, electricity $127, phone $65, internet $50 because Destiny needed it for school. Groceries roughly $300 if he stretched every dollar. The funeral home still wanted $3,200 for Rashida's burial. They'd been patient, but patience had limits. Jamal pulled out his phone calculator. His warehouse salary brought in $2,100 a month after taxes. The weekend security gig added maybe $400. That was $2,500 total. His expenses were $2,730 minimum. And that didn't include things like new shoes for Destiny school supplies or the poster board and markers he'd bought tonight. He was short $230 this month. Again. Jamal dropped his head into his hands and tried to figure out what he could cut. He'd already canceled Netflix, already switched to the cheapest phone plan, already stopped buying coffee, stopped going out, stopped doing anything that cost money. There was nothing left to cut. On the side table, the framed photo of his wedding day watched him quietly. Rashida in her simple white dress, flowers in her hair, smiling like she held the whole world in her heart. They'd gotten married at City Hall with 2 friends as witnesses. The dress had cost $60. The flowers came from a bodega. It had been the happiest day of his life. "Baby, I'm trying my best," Jamal whispered to the photograph. "I hope you're proud of us." The apartment was silent except for the muffled sounds of Mr. Rodriguez's TV through the wall. Jamal stared at the bills for another long moment, then carefully organized them into a pile. He'd figure it out. He always did. Tomorrow he'd wake up at 5:30 a.m., get Destiny ready for schoolwork, 10 hours at the warehouse, and come home to do it all over again. That was the life now. No room for dreams or what-ifs, just surviving one day at a time. But tonight, in this quiet moment, Jamal let himself feel the weight of it all. The loneliness, the exhaustion, the constant fear that he wasn't enough. Then he stood up, turned off the kitchen light, and went to bed. Because tomorrow, Destiny would wake up smiling. And that was worth everything. 3 days passed. Jamal went back to his routine warehouse shifts, weekend security, helping Destiny with homework. He never thought about the woman on the sidewalk again. 3 days passed. Jamal went back to his routine warehouse shifts, weekend security, helping Destiny with homework. He never thought about the woman on the sidewalk again. Catherine Sterling opened her eyes to white ceiling tiles and the steady beep of machines. Her chest ached like someone had parked a truck on it. Her throat felt raw. For a moment, she had no idea where she was or why everything hurt. Then it came rushing back, the crushing pain in her chest, the sidewalk rising up to meet her, strong hands pressing against her sternum, a calm voice cutting through her panic. "Miss Sterling." A woman's face appeared above her. African-American late 40s wearing a white coat with a stethoscope draped around her neck. "I'm Dr. Williams, head of cardiology. You're at Mount Sinai. You've been here for about 6 hours. Catherine tried to speak, but her mouth was too dry. Dr. Williams held a cup of water with a straw to her lips. "Small sips," the doctor said. "Your throat's going to be sore from the intubation." After a few sips, Catherine managed. "What happened?" "You had a massive heart attack. Technically, you were clinically dead for about 90 seconds. Dr. Williams pulled up a chair, her expression serious but kind. "A bystander performed CPR on you until the paramedics arrived. That man saved your life, Miss Sterling. Without him, we wouldn't be having this conversation." The words hit Catherine like a physical blow. Dead. She'd been dead. Catherine lay in the hospital bed staring at the ceiling tiles. The machines beeped steadily beside her, marking each heartbeat she shouldn't have had. 90 seconds. That's how long she'd been dead. She'd built a billion-dollar company. She had homes in 3 cities, a private jet, more money than she could spend in 5 lifetimes. And none of it had mattered when her heart stopped on that sidewalk. But someone had cared. A stranger had knelt down on dirty concrete and fought to bring her back to life. He'd given her this second chance, these heartbeats, this breath, this moment, and then he'd just left. She didn't even know his name. Catherine pressed her hand against her chest, feeling the dull ache where his hands had pressed. Compressions hard enough to crack ribs, hard enough to restart a heart. He'd done that. For her, a woman he'd never met, and she couldn't even thank him. In her world, everything had a price. Everything was negotiable. People did things because they wanted something in return, a promotion, a contract access to her network. But this man had saved her life and asked for nothing, expected nothing. He'd just walked away like it was the most natural thing in the world. Who was he? Catherine's voice came out hoarse but urgent. "I need to thank him. I need to." He didn't leave his name. The paramedics said he helped load you into the ambulance and then just left. They were focused on you, and by the time they thought to get his information, he was gone. Catherine's hand gripped the bed rail. "That's not possible. Someone must have seen something. Security cameras, witnesses, anything." Dr. Williams stood. "I'll have the hospital administrator contact you about that. Right now, you need to rest. We're going to keep you here for at least a week for observation and treatment. Your heart took significant trauma." But Catherine was already reaching for her phone on the bedside table. Her fingers shook as she scrolled through contacts. "Miss Sterling, you really should. I need to make one call." Catherine's CEO voice cut through the room, the tone she used when decisions were final. "Please, doctor." Williams hesitated, then nodded and left. Catherine dialed David Ortega, head of her security team. He answered on the first ring. "Miss Sterling, thank God I heard about—" "David, I need you to find someone. A man probably in his 30s, black, was on the corner of Lexington and 53rd last night, around 9 p.m. He performed CPR on me. The paramedics said he left before anyone got his name. I'll get on it immediately. I want everything. Name, address, background. I don't care what it costs. Understood. Are you okay? Should I come to the hospital?" Catherine looked down at the IV in her arm, the monitors tracking her every heartbeat. "I'm alive because of a stranger who didn't even wait around for a thank you. Find him, David." She hung up and lay back against the pillows, exhaustion washing over her. Someone had saved her life and asked for nothing. In her world of board meetings and stock options of people who wanted something from her every waking moment that seemed impossible. 3 days later, Catherine sat in her corner office on the 45th floor of the Sterling Tech building, pretending she wasn't supposed to still be in the hospital. She'd checked herself out against medical advice that morning. Dr. Williams had been furious. Catherine didn't care. She had work to do, and she had a file sitting on her desk. David had delivered it personally an hour ago, his expression unreadable. "You're not going to like what you find," he'd said. Catherine opened the folder, now her fingers still slightly trembling from medication. The first page was a DMV photo. Jamal Washington, age 37, dark skin, kind eyes, slight smile like he'd been thinking about something pleasant when they took the picture. He looked tired, but not defeated. Strong, but gentle. This was him, the man who'd saved her life. Catherine turned the page and started reading. Jamal Marcus Washington, born in Brooklyn, high school diploma, no college degree. Employed at Mason Brothers Warehouse in Brooklyn for the past 4 years. Also worked weekend security shifts at a Bronx shopping center. Widowed 3 years ago. Wife died of a brain aneurysm at age 32. Catherine's hand went to her chest, right where it still ached. One daughter, Destiny Washington, age 9. Attends PS 234 in the Bronx. Honor roll student. Current residence 1247 Grand Concourse, Apartment 5, C, Bronx, NY. Monthly rent $1,400. Estimated annual income $30,000. Outstanding debts $3,200 to Evergreen Funeral Home for wife's burial services. $847 in medical bills from daughter's emergency room visit last year. Broken arm. Credit score 620. The file went on, but Catherine had stopped reading. She stood and walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park. The trees were starting to turn orange and gold. Below, people jogged along paths that probably cost more to maintain than Jamal's annual salary. She'd almost died 3 days ago, and the man who saved her was working 2 jobs to afford a 1-bedroom apartment while still paying off his wife's funeral. Catherine's own childhood flashed through her mind. The tiny apartment in Queens where she'd grown up. Her father working 70-hour weeks at a dry cleaning business he'd built from nothing. Her mother sewing clothes for neighbors to make extra money. Dinner was often rice and beans, and new shoes were a Christmas miracle. Her father had built Sterling Dry Cleaning into a small empire, then pivoted into tech, just as the internet was taking off. By the time Catherine graduated high school, they'd moved to Manhattan. By the time she took over as CEO at 35, Sterling Tech was worth billions. She'd forgotten what it felt like to count pennies, to choose between paying rent and paying debts, to work yourself to exhaustion just to barely survive. Catherine returned to her desk and flipped to the last page of the file. It was a photo clearly pulled from social media, slightly grainy but clear enough. Jamal and a little girl, Destiny, at what looked like a school event. Both of them were laughing at something off camera. The girl wore a homemade costume, probably for a play. Jamal had his arm around her shoulders. Despite everything the file said about struggle and loss and debt, they looked happy. Genuinely, radiantly happy. When was the last time Catherine had looked that happy? She'd built an empire, yes. She had more money than she could spend in 3 lifetimes. But her corner office suddenly felt very empty. Her assistant's voice came through the intercom. "Miss Sterling, the board meeting is in 10 minutes. Cancel it, Catherine said. Cancel, but they've been scheduled for... Cancel the meeting, Jennifer. Reschedule for next week. Catherine was already pulling up the contact information David had included. And clear my schedule for tomorrow afternoon. Is everything okay? Catherine looked at the photo of Jamal and Destiny again. A man who'd saved her life while fighting his own daily battles. A father raising a daughter alone, working 2 jobs, still smiling. Yes, Catherine said quietly. I just need to do something important. She spent the rest of the day reading and rereading the file, trying to figure out the right approach. She couldn't just throw money at this. The file included notes from David's discreet inquiries neighbors, saying Jamal was proud and independent, the kind of man who'd refuse charity. But this wasn't charity. He'd saved her life. She owed him everything. The question was, how do you repay someone for giving you back your existence without insulting their dignity? Catherine stared out at the city lights as evening fell. Somewhere out there in the Bronx, Jamal Washington was probably coming home from his second shift. His daughter was probably waiting up for him. They'd have dinner together in their small apartment, and he'd help her with homework, and he'd try not to think about the bills piling up. And he had no idea that the woman whose life he'd saved was now trying to figure out how to save his back. I have to do something? Catherine murmured to the empty office. But how do I help without hurting his pride? She picked up her phone and called David again. I need you to find out everything about Jamal Washington's skills. Work history recommendations from employers, anything that tells me what he's good at. And I need it by tomorrow morning. May I ask what you're planning? Catherine smiled for the first time in days. I'm planning to offer a good man the opportunity he deserves. I just need to make sure he can't say no. Catherine's driver pulled up to 1247 Grand Concourse at exactly 6:30 p.m. She'd told him to wait around the corner. This wasn't the kind of neighborhood where a black Mercedes with tinted windows would go unnoticed. The building was exactly what the file had described, 5 stories, brown brick fire escapes zigzagging down the front, paint peeling around the windows. A group of teenagers sat on the stoop, music playing from someone's phone. They looked up as Catherine approached their conversation, stopping mid-sentence. She was wearing a simple blazer and slacks, the most casual outfit she owned. Still, she felt absurdly overdressed. Her shoes alone probably cost more than a month's rent here. The lobby door was propped open with a brick. No doorman, no security desk. Just a wall of dented mailboxes and a handwritten sign that read, "Elevator broken, sorry." Catherine started climbing. Her chest still ached from the heart attack, and by the 3rd floor she was breathing hard. Dr. Williams had been right about taking it easy. By the 5th floor she had to stop and catch her breath, one hand pressed against the wall. Apartment 5C was at the end of the hall. Catherine could hear voices inside, a child's laughter, a man's deeper response. For a moment she almost turned around. This was insane. What was she even doing here, but she'd come this far? She knocked. The laughter stopped. Footsteps approached, light and quick. The door opened to reveal a little girl with cornrows decorated with colorful beads. She wore a school uniform polo and looked up at Catherine with enormous brown eyes. Hi. The girl's face split into a huge smile. Daddy, there's a pretty lady at the door. Catherine heard movement inside. Then Jamal appeared behind his daughter. He was wearing a faded t-shirt and jeans, barefoot, clearly just home from work. His expression went from curious to shocked in about half a second. It's you, he said. It's me. Catherine managed to smile despite her pounding heart. I'm Catherine Sterling. You saved my life last Tuesday. Jamal's hand went to the back of his neck, a gesture that seemed almost embarrassed. I just did what anyone would do. I'm glad you're okay. Anyone wouldn't have done it. 100 people walked past me. You stopped. Catherine pulled an envelope from her purse. Her hands were shaking slightly. I came to thank you properly. This is, Daddy, who is she? Destiny tugged on her father's shirt. This is the lady I told you about, baby, the one who was sick. Destiny's eyes went even wider. You saved her like a superhero. Not a superhero, just, Jamal began. Please, Catherine interrupted. May I come in, just for a moment? Jamal hesitated, then stepped back. Of course. I'm sorry, where are my manners come in? The apartment was smaller than Catherine had imagined. The entire space couldn't have been more than 600 square feet, but it was spotlessly clean. Children's drawings covered the refrigerator. A small bookshelf overflowed with library books. The furniture was old but carefully maintained, and everywhere there were signs of love. A blanket draped over the couch in bright colors. Destiny's backpack hanging neatly by the door. On a small side table, a framed wedding photo of Jamal and a beautiful woman in a simple white dress. "Can I get you something to drink?" Jamal asked. "Water. We have, water or water?" Catherine laughed despite herself. "Water would be lovely." Destiny hadn't stopped staring. "You're really pretty. Are you a movie star?" Destiny Jamal called from the kitchen. "Don't be rude." "It's not rude." Catherine crouched down to the girl's level. "Thank you. What's your name?" "Destiny Washington. I'm 9 years old, and I'm in 4th grade, and I got an A on my science project proposal." "A science project? What's it about?" "The human heart. Come see." Destiny grabbed Catherine's hand and pulled her toward the small kitchen table where a rough model made from cardboard and straws sat. "See, this is the right ventricle, and this is where the blood comes in, and—" "Baby, let Miss Sterling sit down first," Jamal said, handing Catherine a glass of water. He'd filled it from the tap, and Catherine noticed the way he checked to make sure it was clean before offering it. Catherine sat at the table, and Destiny immediately launched into an enthusiastic explanation of her project. Jamal stood nearby, arms crossed, watching with a mixture of pride and wariness. After a few minutes, Catherine gently interrupted. "Destiny, that's absolutely fascinating. You're clearly very smart, but I need to talk to your dad about something important. Adult stuff. Would you mind giving us a few minutes?" Destiny looked at her father, who nodded. "Go finish your homework, baby. I'll check it before bed." "Okay. Bye, pretty lady." Destiny bounced off toward her bedroom. When she was gone, Jamal sat down across from Catherine. "I'm sorry about the—" "Don't apologize. She's wonderful." Catherine pulled out the envelope again. "Mr. Washington. Jamal. Please. Jamal." Catherine slid the envelope across the table. "This is $50,000. It's not nearly enough for what you did, but I wanted to. I can't accept that." Jamal didn't even touch the envelope. "You saved my life. I did what any decent person would do." His voice was firm, but not unkind. "I didn't help you for money, Miss Sterling." "Catherine, and I know you didn't, but if I take that money," Jamal interrupted, "it makes what I did into a transaction. Like I only helped because I'd get paid for it." He finally met her eyes. "My wife used to say that doing the right thing is its own reward. I believe that." Catherine felt something tighten in her chest. "Your wife was a wise woman." "She was." Jamal glanced at the wedding photo. "She would have done the same thing I did. Probably would have done it better." "Daddy!" Destiny's voice called from her room. "I need help with my math." "1 second, baby," Jamal called back, then turned to Catherine. "Look, I appreciate you coming all the way here. I really do. But I can't take your money. I'm just glad you're okay." "But," Catherine started. "Daddy, it's word problems, the hard ones." "I'm sorry," Jamal said, standing. "I need to help my daughter with her homework." Catherine stood too, the envelope still lying untouched on the table. She felt frustrated and confused and oddly moved all at once. In her world, everyone had a price. Everyone wanted something. But here was a man turning down enough money to change his life because accepting it would compromise his principles. "Can I at least meet Destiny properly?" Catherine asked. "Before I go." Jamal hesitated, then nodded. "She'd like that." Destiny's room was barely big enough for a twin bed and a small desk, but the walls were covered with her artwork, her drawings, her dreams rendered in crayon and marker. A poster of the solar system hung above her bed. Her bookshelf was packed with library books about science and nature. "Miss Sterling wants to see your heart model again," Jamal said from the doorway. Destiny's face lit up. "Really? Okay. So this part is really cool." She launched back into her explanation, pointing out each carefully constructed chamber and valve. Catherine listened, genuinely interested. This 9-year-old girl in a tiny apartment in the Bronx had dreams of understanding the human heart. Dreams of helping people just like her father had helped Catherine. "Why the heart?" Catherine asked when Destiny paused for breath. The girl's expression turned serious. "Because my mommy died when her heart stopped working right. If I can understand hearts really good, maybe I can help other kids keep their mommies." Catherine's eyes stung. She glanced at Jamal, who was looking at his daughter with so much love it was almost painful to witness. "That's a beautiful reason," Catherine said softly. "Miss Sterling," Jamal said. "I'm sorry, but it's getting late, and Destiny needs to finish her homework and get ready for bed." Catherine stood. "Of course. I've taken up enough of your evening." She looked around the small apartment one more time at the drawings on the fridge, at the carefully organized bills on the counter that Jamal had hastily covered with a dish towel, at the wedding photo of a couple who'd clearly loved each other completely. "You have a beautiful family," she said. Jamal walked her to the door. "We have each other. That's enough." "Is it?" Catherine asked quietly. Jamal's jaw tightened slightly. "It has to be." Catherine wanted to argue, to push back, to make him see reason. But something about the set of his shoulders, the protective way he glanced back toward Destiny's room, told her that pushing now would only make him more resistant. "Thank you for seeing me," she said instead. "And thank you again for what you did." "You don't need to thank me." "I do, actually. More than you know." Catherine pulled out a business card. "If you ever need anything, and I mean anything, please call me. It's the least I can offer." Jamal took the card, looked at it briefly, then slipped it into his pocket. "Good night, Miss Sterling." "Good night, Jamal." Catherine walked down all 5 flights of stairs in a daze. The envelope with $50,000 was still sitting on Jamal's kitchen table, untouched. She'd come here planning to help him, to ease his burden, to repay the debt she owed. Instead, she felt like she'd been given something far more valuable than her life. She'd been shown what real integrity looked like. What real wealth, the kind that didn't come with a dollar sign, actually meant. Her driver was waiting around the corner. Catherine slid into the back seat and sat in silence as they pulled away from the Bronx, heading back toward Manhattan and her penthouse and her empty life. She needed a new plan, because Jamal Washington wasn't going to accept charity no matter how much he needed it. But maybe, just maybe, he might accept opportunity. 3 days passed before Catherine returned. This time, she didn't bring an envelope of cash. She brought a leather portfolio and a job description she'd rewritten 4 times. Jamal answered the door in his warehouse uniform, clearly about to leave for his shift. His expression shifted from surprise to something more guarded when he saw her. "Miss Sterling, I know what you said about the money." Catherine held up the portfolio. "This isn't that. May I have 5 minutes, please?" Destiny appeared behind her father backpack, already on. "The pretty lady is back. Hi." "Hi, Destiny." Catherine smiled. "Off to school." "Yeah, but Daddy walks me. He's going to be late for work now." She looked up at Jamal with concern. "Are you going to get in trouble?" "I'll be fine, baby." Jamal checked his watch, clearly calculating. "Miss Sterling, I really need to—" "5 minutes," Catherine repeated. "Then I'll drive you both. My car's downstairs." That got Destiny's attention. "You have a car, like a real fancy one." "Destiny," Jamal warned. "It's okay." Catherine looked at Jamal. "Please, 5 minutes changed everything for me. Give me 5 minutes to maybe change something for you." Jamal's jaw worked for a moment, then he stepped back. 5 minutes. Destiny, finish getting your stuff ready." Catherine sat at the same kitchen table, but this time she opened the portfolio and pulled out a formal job offer. "I'm not here to give you money. I'm here to offer you a job." Jamal remained standing, arms crossed. "A job? Facilities Operations Manager at Sterling Tech. You'd oversee building maintenance, safety protocols, vendor relationships, staff management. Starting salary is $78,000 a year, plus full health insurance, dental vision, and a 401k with company matching." Jamal stared at her. "You're joking." "I'm not." Catherine slid the paper across the table. "I spent the last 3 days reviewing your work history. Your supervisors at the warehouse gave you outstanding reviews. They said you're reliable, you solve problems creatively, and people respect you. Those are exactly the qualities I need." "Miss Sterling." Catherine. Jamal sat down heavily but didn't touch the paper. "I don't have a college degree. I've never worked in an office. I'm a warehouse worker, not a—" "You have 15 years of facilities experience. You understand logistics, safety regulations, equipment maintenance, and personnel management. You just didn't have fancy titles for it." Catherine leaned forward. "I don't need another MBA who looks good on paper. I need someone who actually knows how buildings work, who can think on their feet, and who," she paused, "has the character to do the right thing, even when no one's watching. This is because I helped you. This is because my company needs someone like you, and I wouldn't have known you existed if you hadn't helped me. There's a difference." Jamal picked up the job description, his eyes scanning the details. Catherine watched his expression, doubt, hope, fear, all flickering across his face. She saw him pause at the salary line, saw his throat work as he swallowed. "Why are you really doing this?" His voice was quiet. "I helped you one time. One time. This is—" He gestured at the paper. This is life-changing money. Because you deserve an opportunity you've never gotten. Because talent doesn't only exist in people who can afford college. And because Catherine's voice softened. You reminded me of my father. He worked 70 hours a week in a dry cleaning business, did everything right, raised me to value hard work over everything. If someone had given him a chance earlier, who knows what he could have built? Daddy, Destiny called from her room. Does this mean we can go on the school trip to the science museum? It's $40, and... She stopped in the doorway, seeing the papers spread on the table. What's that? It's a job offer, baby. Jamal's voice was strained. Destiny's eyes went wide. A new job, does it pay more? Destiny, that's not. Jamal began. A lot more, Catherine said gently. Enough that you could definitely go on that science trip. Daddy. Destiny grabbed his arm. You have to take it. It's not that simple, baby. Why not? Destiny looked between them, genuinely confused. Miss Catherine is nice. She's giving you a better job. Mommy always said good things happen to people who help others. Jamal closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, Catherine saw the conflict there, pride warring with practical necessity, fear battling hope. What if I'm not good enough? The words came out rough. What if I take this job and fail? Then what I've got, Destiny, depending on me. Then we train you. We support you. We make sure you succeed. Catherine met his eyes steadily. Jamal, I've run this company for 15 years. I don't make hiring decisions lightly. I believe you can do this job. The question is, do you believe it? Destiny tugged his sleeve. Daddy, you're the smartest person I know. You fix everything. You can do this. Jamal looked down at his daughter, then at the job offer, then at Catherine. I need time to think about it. Of course. Catherine stood. Take until next Monday. That gives you a week. Can we still get that ride to school? Destiny asked hopefully. I really want to see the fancy car. Despite everything, Jamal laughed a short, stressed sound. Yeah, baby. We can get a ride. In the back of Catherine's Mercedes, Destiny pressed her nose against the window, pointing out everything they passed. Jamal sat stiffly, the job offer folded in his pocket, saying nothing. When they pulled up to PS 234, Destiny hugged her father. Think about it, okay, Daddy? Really think about it. I will, baby. Have a good day at school. After Destiny bounded up the steps, Catherine turned to Jamal. Where's the warehouse? I'll drop you off. You don't have to. I'm already late for my own meeting. Let me do this. They drove in silence for several blocks before Jamal finally spoke. I've worked 2 jobs for 3 years to barely make ends meet. This one job pays almost 3 times what I make now. It feels too good to be true. It's not charity, Jamal. I need a facilities manager. You need a better opportunity. That's just good business for both of us. And if the board asks why you hired a warehouse worker with no degree for a management position, I'll tell them I hired the man who had the character to save a stranger's life without hesitation. If they have a problem with that, they can take it up with me. Catherine glanced at him. I didn't get to where I am by letting other people tell me who deserves a chance. That evening, Jamal did something he hadn't done in months. After Destiny went to bed, he drove to Woodlawn Cemetery. Rashida's grave was in a modest section beneath an oak tree that was just starting to bud with spring growth. The headstone was simple. Rashida Washington, beloved wife and mother, 1,988 to 2,021 inches. Jamal sat on the grass beside it like he was just having a conversation. Hey, baby, I know it's been a while. He pulled out the job offer, unfolding it in the fading light. Something happened. Something big. He told her about Catherine, about the heart attack, the CPR, the visit to their apartment, about the job offer that could change everything. I'm scared, Rashida. His voice cracked. What if I'm not smart enough? What if I take this job and mess it up? What if I don't belong in that world? He pressed his palms against his eyes. I've been okay with barely making it because I knew it was honest work. But this is different. This is a chance to actually get ahead, and I'm terrified I'll blow it. The wind picked up rustling through the oak tree. A few early leaves drifted down, one landing directly on Rashida's headstone. Jamal watched it settle there, and for just a moment, he could almost hear her voice. You're stronger than you think, baby. You just need someone to see it. She'd said that to him so many times. When he was nervous about becoming a father, when money was tight and he thought about working a 3rd job, when she was dying and he was falling apart. You always believed in me more than I believed in myself, Jamal whispered. I wish you were here to tell me what to do. But she wasn't here, and he had to decide on his own. When he got home, Destiny was supposedly asleep, but he heard rustling in her room. He knocked softly and opened the door. She was sitting up in bed with a flashlight writing something on notebook paper. When she saw him, she quickly tried to hide it. "What are you working on, baby?" "Nothing." "Destiny." She sighed and held out the paper. "It's a list. Reasons why you should take the job." Jamal sat on the edge of her bed and read by the flashlight. Reasons Daddy should take the job: 1. More money for food and stuff too. We could get a bigger apartment. 3. Health insurance so we don't have to worry. 4. Daddy wouldn't be so tired all the time. 5. I could go on school trips. 6. Daddy deserves something good. 7. Mommy would be proud. The last line blurred as tears filled Jamal's eyes. He pulled Destiny into a hug, holding her tight. "You think Mommy would be proud?" he asked. "Daddy, Mommy would be doing a happy dance right now. She always wanted you to have chances." Destiny pulled back and looked at him seriously. "You're always telling me to be brave and try new things. Now it's your turn." Out of the mouths of 9-year-olds. Jamal kissed her forehead. "Get some sleep, baby, and thank you for the list." That night, Jamal sat at the kitchen table with Destiny's list in front of him and the job offer beside it. 2 pieces of paper that represented 2 different futures. The safe path, keep doing what he was doing, barely surviving, but with no risk of failure. The brave path, take the chance, risk failing, but maybe, just maybe, build something better for Destiny. He thought about Rashida, about her fierce belief in him, about how she'd never let fear make their decisions. He thought about Destiny making lists by flashlight, already learning to dream bigger than their small apartment. And he thought about Catherine Sterling, who'd taken the time to see past his warehouse uniform to whatever potential she believed he had. Jamal pulled out his phone and typed a message before he could second-guess himself. "Miss Sterling, this is Jamal Washington. If the offer is still available, I'd like to accept. When can I start?" He hit send, then sat back and waited for his heart to stop pounding. The response came 2 minutes later, Monday, 8 a.m. "Welcome to Sterling Tech." Jamal stood in front of the bathroom mirror at 6:15 a.m., struggling with the tie that hadn't seen daylight in 3 years. The suit he'd worn to Rashida's funeral hung loose on his frame. Now he'd lost weight from working double shifts and skipping meals. The pants needed a belt he didn't own. The jacket sleeves were slightly too short. He looked like a kid playing dress-up in his father's clothes. "Daddy, you're doing it wrong." Destiny appeared in the doorway, already dressed for school in her uniform. She climbed onto the closed toilet seat to reach his collar. "Mommy taught me. See, over, under, through, and pull." Her small fingers worked the silk with surprising confidence. Jamal watched his daughter's concentrated face in the mirror and felt his throat tighten. "Your mommy taught you good," he said quietly. "She said every man needs to know how to tie a tie for important days." Destiny finished with a flourish and stepped back to admire her work. "Today's an important day, right?" "Yeah, baby. Real important. You look handsome, Daddy." She straightened his collar with the seriousness of a 9-year-old. "You're going to do great." Jamal wished he felt as confident as she sounded. The Sterling Tech building rose 52 stories into the Manhattan sky, all glass and steel that reflected the morning sun like a beacon. Jamal stood on the sidewalk across the street, commuters flowing around him like water around a stone, and tried to convince himself to move. The building looked like it belonged on a magazine cover. He looked like he belonged at a warehouse loading dock. "Come on," he muttered to himself. "You've got this." He didn't have this. The lobby was all marble floors and soaring ceilings. Modern art that probably cost more than his yearly salary hung on the walls. Men and women in expensive suits moved with purpose, their shoes clicking against the polished stone. Everyone looked like they belonged. Everyone except him. Jamal approached the security desk where a white security guard in his 50s sat checking IDs. The man looked up as Jamal approached, and something in his expression shifted. "Can I help you?" Not friendly, not unfriendly, just careful. "I'm here for my first day. Jamal Washington. I'm the new facilities operations manager." The guard's eyebrows raised slightly. "ID? I don't have it yet. I'm supposed to get it from HR when I can't let you up without ID. Building policy." The guard crossed his arms. "I understand, but Miss Sterling told me to come to her office first." "Miss Sterling." Now the guard looked openly skeptical. "You have an appointment with the CEO." Heat crawled up Jamal's neck. Other people in the lobby were starting to notice the conversation. A woman in a power suit glanced over, then quickly looked away. Two men in ties paused their conversation to watch. "She hired me personally. If you could just call up to her office." "Sir, I'm going to need you to step aside while I verify." "Robert, it's fine." Catherine's voice cut through the lobby like a bell. She strode toward them in a navy suit, heels clicking with authority. "He's with me." The guard Robert immediately shifted his posture. "Miss Sterling, I apologize. He didn't have ID and protocol requires." "I understand protocol, Robert. Mr. Washington is my guest. Please have someone from HR bring his credentials to my office within the hour." "Yes, ma'am. Right away." Robert's face had turned red. "Mr. Washington, I apologize for the confusion." Jamal nodded, not trusting his voice. Catherine touched his elbow lightly and guided him toward the elevators. Neither of them spoke until the elevator doors closed and they were alone rising toward the executive floors. "I'm sorry about that," Catherine said. "Not your fault." Jamal stared at the floor numbers climbing. "He was just doing his job." "He was profiling you." Catherine's voice was flat. "Let's not pretend otherwise." Jamal didn't argue because she was right. The executive floor was exactly what Jamal expected: more glass, more modern art, more evidence that he'd stepped into a world he didn't understand. Catherine's assistant, a young Asian woman with perfect makeup, smiled warmly at him. "You must be Mr. Washington. Welcome to Sterling Tech." "I'm Jennifer." "Thank you. Please call me Jamal." "Coffee water. We have an espresso machine that's honestly better than most coffee shops." "Water's fine. Thank you." Catherine led him through a tour of the building. The employee lounge had a full kitchen, 3 kinds of coffee, and a smoothie bar. The gym on the 20th floor had equipment newer than anything Jamal had ever seen. The facilities office on the 15th floor was bigger than his entire apartment. "This is your space," Catherine said, showing him a private office with windows overlooking the city. "Your team is down the hall. There are 5 of them. They handle day-to-day operations. You oversee everything, coordinate with vendors, manage the budget, and report directly to me." Jamal walked to the window and looked out at Manhattan spreading below him. His reflection stared back, a black man in an ill-fitting suit, looking lost. "Catherine, I've worked with my hands my whole life. I fix things. I lift things. I solve problems on the floor, not from behind a desk. You'll do both." She came to stand beside him. "Facilities management isn't about sitting in meetings all day. It's about understanding how a building breathes, how systems connect, what needs attention before it breaks. You already know all of that. Now you just need to learn the business side. And if I can't, then we'll teach you." She met his eyes in the reflection. "Jamal, I didn't bring you here to fail." The team meeting was scheduled for 10 a.m. 5 people filed into the conference room, and Jamal immediately felt their eyes assessing him. 4 white faces, 1 Asian. All of them dressed better than him, all of them clearly wondering who this guy was. "Everyone, this is Jamal Washington, our new facilities operations manager," Catherine announced. "Jamal, this is your team. Brad handles HVAC systems. Lisa oversees vendor relationships. Tom manages security systems. Rachel coordinates scheduling, and David handles compliance." Handshakes all around. Polite smiles that didn't quite reach anyone's eyes except Lisa's. Brad, a guy in his early 40s with the kind of tan that came from golf courses, leaned back in his chair. "So, Jamal, how many years of facilities management experience do you have?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. "None," Jamal said honestly. "But I have 15 years of hands-on experience maintaining buildings, managing logistics, and solving problems under pressure. I'm here to learn the management side from all of you." Brad's smile was thin. "Oh, well, that's different." "Different can be good," Catherine said coolly. "Jamal brings practical experience that's often lacking in management. I suggest you all take advantage of his expertise while helping him learn the systems here. Questions?" No one said anything. At lunch, the team headed out to a nearby restaurant. No one invited Jamal. He wasn't sure if it was an oversight or intentional, but either way, he found himself sitting alone in his new office, eating the peanut butter sandwich he'd packed from home. Through the glass walls, he could see other employees gathering in groups, laughing over salads from places with names he couldn't pronounce. He thought about Destiny probably eating her own packed lunch in the PS 234 cafeteria and wondered if she ever felt this out of place. "I don't belong here," Jamal thought, staring at his reflection in the dark computer screen. "These people know it. Hell, I know it. What was I thinking? At 2:47 p.m., everything changed. Jamal Lisa appeared at his door looking flustered. We have a situation. The HVAC system on floor 18 just went out. 200 people up there are complaining about the heat. Jamal followed her to the facilities office where Brad was on the phone with an outside contractor looking stressed. They can't get anyone here until tomorrow, Brad said, hanging up, and they're quoting $500 just for the emergency call. Let me see the building schematics, Jamal said. Brad hesitated. You want to look at the blueprints? Yeah. Where are they? 5 minutes later, Jamal was studying the HVAC layout for the 18th floor. The system was more complex than what he was used to, but the principles were the same. Airflow, pressure, temperature regulation. It was all just physics and mechanics. I need to see the actual unit, Jamal said. It's in the mechanical room. But shouldn't we wait for the contractor? Brad's tone suggested he thought Jamal was out of his depth. We can wait and pay $500, or I can look at it now, for free. Your call. Brad exchanged glances with the others. Fine. It's this way. The mechanical room was exactly where Jamal felt comfortable among pipes and ducts and machines that made sense. He shed his suit jacket, rolled up his sleeves, and climbed up to examine the main unit. Hand me that flashlight, he called down. For 20 minutes, he traced the system, checking connections, testing pressure points. The team watched from below, some looking skeptical, others just curious. Then Jamal found it a valve that had seized up, cutting off airflow to the entire floor. There, he said, working the valve free with a wrench someone handed up. This got stuck, probably from lack of maintenance. You need to schedule quarterly checks on all these units. He gave the valve a final twist, and immediately they heard the system kick back to life. Cool air began flowing through the vents. Jamal climbed down, wiping his hands on a rag. His white shirt was streaked with dust, his tie askew. He probably looked like a mess, but the HVAC was fixed. Well, Brad said slowly, that was impressive. It's just basic mechanics. Jamal straightened his tie. But yeah, we should set up that maintenance schedule. Catherine appeared in the doorway just as Jamal was putting his jacket back on. She must have heard about the situation. Her eyes took in the scene, the fixed system, the team's changed expressions, Jamal's dirty shirt. She smiled. See? I told you. You belong here. An hour later, Jamal got a thank you email from the 18th floor manager CCing Catherine, then another from someone who'd been in that meeting, then another. By the time 5 p.m. rolled around, Lisa stopped by his office. Hey, some of us are grabbing drinks after work on Friday. You should come. I've got my daughter. Bring her. We're going to a place with good burgers. Kids are welcome. It wasn't much. It was just drinks, but it felt like something had shifted. Brad appeared in his doorway as Jamal was packing up. Hey, about this morning, I was out of line with that question. You were doing your job, making sure the new guy could handle it. Maybe. Brad shifted his weight. But you proved yourself today. That valve issue would have taken the contractor hours to diagnose. You did it in 20 minutes. Just happened to know what to look for. That's exactly the point. Brad extended his hand. Welcome to the team. For real this time. Jamal shook it, and for the first time all day, the knot in his chest loosened slightly. On the subway home, still in his dusty suit, Jamal pulled out his phone and texted Destiny. First day done. I fixed something big. You were right. I can do this. Her response came immediately. I told you, can we celebrate with pizza? Jamal smiled. Yeah, baby, we can celebrate with pizza. He looked at his reflection in the subway window, a tired black man in a too big suit smelling like machine oil and dust. He didn't look like a Manhattan executive, but maybe that was okay. Maybe he didn't need to look like them. He just needed to do the work. And today, he had. The first 3 months were the hardest of Jamal's life, and that included the year after Rashida died. He arrived at Sterling Tech every morning at 6:30 a.m. and rarely left before 7 p.m. After Destiny went to bed, he'd spend hours watching YouTube videos about building management systems, reading industry manuals, teaching himself the business side of facilities operations that he'd never needed before. The work itself wasn't the problem. Jamal understood buildings, understood how things worked, but the corporate world had its own language, acronyms, protocols, email, etiquette, budget spreadsheets that made his head spin. He felt like he was learning to speak a foreign language while everyone else was born fluent, but he showed up every day. And he learned. Catherine started a routine of meeting him for coffee every Tuesday morning at 7 a.m. before the building got busy. They'd sit in her office with the city waking up below them, and she'd walk him through whatever he was struggling with that week. "You're doing better than you think," she told him during their third week. "The team's coming around." "Brad still looks at me like I'm going to blow something up." "Brad looks at everyone that way. Give it time." Catherine stirred her coffee, then looked at him. "Can I ask you something personal?" "Sure." "Why'd you really take this job, and don't say it was just for the money? I've seen men take high-paying jobs for money. They don't work like you work." Jamal thought about it. "My wife, Rashida, she used to say that tough times were just adventures we hadn't figured out yet. When money was tight, she'd make it into a game. When I was stressed about work, she'd remind me that we were building something together." He paused. "After she died, everything just became hard. Just hard, you know. No adventure. No purpose except surviving another day. And now I want to show my daughter that you can have more than survival, that you can build something, that her mom was right, tough times can turn into something better if you're brave enough." Catherine was quiet for a moment. "My father came to this country with $300 in his pocket, worked in a dry cleaning business 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. We lived in a one-bedroom apartment in Queens, me, my parents, my grandmother all crammed together. I slept on the couch until I was 15. Jamal looked at her in surprise. "I didn't know that. Most people don't. By the time I went to college, my father had turned that one dry cleaning business into a chain. But I remember those early years. I remember him coming home, exhausted hands, raw from chemicals, but still smiling because we were together and we were making it work." She met Jamal's eyes. "That's why I hired you, because I saw that same thing in you that I saw in my father." That refusal to quit even when quitting would be easier. After that, their Tuesday mornings became less about work and more about understanding each other. Two people from similar worlds who'd ended up in very different places trying to bridge that gap. Destiny started coming to the office twice a week after school. Jamal would pick her up from PS 234 and bring her back to Sterling Tech, where she'd do homework in his office while he finished his day. The team got used to seeing a 9-year-old at the conference table, her books spread out occasionally, asking questions that made everyone smile. "Mr. Brad, what's HVAC stand for?" she asked one afternoon. Brad, who'd been standoffish with Jamal, couldn't help but grin. "Heating, ventilation, and air conditioning." "Oh, that's what my daddy fixed on his first day." "Yeah," Brad said, glancing at Jamal. "Yeah, he did." Catherine took a particular interest in Destiny. She'd stopped by Jamal's office to check on them and somehow always had a new science book for Destiny to borrow, advanced textbooks about biology and engineering that most fourth graders wouldn't touch, but Destiny devoured them. "She reminds me of myself at that age," Catherine told Jamal. "Curious about everything. Don't let that curiosity die." But not everything was getting easier. Brad still gave Jamal the hardest assignments, still questioned his decisions in meetings, still made it clear he thought Jamal was out of his depth. And maybe Brad had a point. Jamal made mistakes. He approved a vendor who turned out to be unreliable. He missed a deadline on a safety report. He accidentally scheduled 2 major maintenance projects for the same day, causing chaos. Each time he expected Catherine to call him into her office and admit this had been a mistake. Each time she just said, "Fix it and learn from it." So he did. The turning point came in month 4. It was a Tuesday morning, 9:47 a.m. Jamal was in a budget review meeting when the fire alarm started blaring. Not the usual test pattern, the real thing. Flashing lights, automated voice announcing evacuation the works. The entire building had to be evacuated. 52 floors, over 3,000 people, all filing down the stairwells in organized chaos. Jamal grabbed his radio and headed for the security office to figure out what triggered it. Brad was already there looking panicked. "The system's saying there's a fire on the 34th floor, but the cameras show nothing. I think it's a malfunction, but I can't override it. The fire department's on their way." "What about the suppression system?" Jamal asked. "It hasn't activated, which means the system's getting a false reading, but doesn't know it's false." Jamal was already pulling up the building schematics on the computer. "Where's the main control panel for the 34th floor detectors?" "Mechanical room 34B, but..." "I'm going up." "Jamal, we're under evacuation. You can't..." "If this is a malfunction and the fire department shows up, we're looking at a $15,000 false alarm fee, plus we shut down business for the whole day while they investigate." Jamal was already moving toward the stairs. "Radio me if anything changes." He took the stairs 2 at a time, his dress shoes slipping slightly on the concrete. By the 18th floor, his legs were burning. By the 28th, he was gasping for air. But he kept climbing. Mechanical room 34B was hot and loud with machinery. Jamal went straight to the fire detection panel, popping it open and scanning the circuits. There, a corroded wire connection causing false readings. He grabbed his multi-tool and got to work. His radio crackled. "Jamal, fire department's here. They're asking what the hell someone's doing inside. Tell them I'm fixing their false alarm. Give me 5 more minutes." His hands worked fast, stripping the corroded connection, splicing in a new wire segment from his toolkit. The alarm kept blaring, making it hard to think, but Jamal blocked it out. This was just another problem to solve, just another system to fix. He twisted the final connection tight, closed the panel, and reset the system. The alarm stopped. The sudden silence was deafening. Jamal's radio exploded with chatter. "Status, Jamal. What's your status?" "False alarm contained. Corroded wire in the detector circuit. I've patched it, but we need to schedule a full inspection of all fire detection systems. This could happen on any floor." By the time he made it back down to the lobby, the fire department was packing up their equipment, and 3,000 employees were filtering back into the building. Catherine stood near the security desk with Brad and the rest of the facilities team. Her expression was unreadable. Jamal approached, still breathing hard from the climb. "I'm sorry if I overstepped. I know evacuation protocol says..." "You saved us $15,000 and a full day of lost productivity," Catherine interrupted, "and you identified a building-wide safety issue we didn't know we had. That's not overstepping. That's exactly what I hired you to do." Brad stepped forward, and for the first time since Jamal had started, his expression wasn't skeptical. "I panicked up there. I didn't know what to do. You just handled it." "I've seen a lot of false alarms," Jamal said. "You learned to read the patterns." "No." Brad shook his head. "It's more than that. You stayed calm while the rest of us were freaking out. You trusted your skills. And you were right." He extended his hand. "I owe you an apology. I've been testing you since day one, giving you the hardest problems, hoping you'd... I don't know. I was wrong. You're not just good at this job. You're better at it than I am." Jamal shook his hand, too tired to feel triumphant. "You were protecting your team. I get it. I would have done the same thing." "Maybe. But I should have seen who you were sooner." Brad glanced at the others. "We all should have." That afternoon, Catherine called an all-hands meeting. The entire company, 3,000 employees, gathered in the main auditorium and via video conference. "This morning we had an incident that could have cost us significantly," Catherine began. "Instead, it demonstrated exactly why we invest in people with real-world expertise. Jamal Washington, our facilities operations manager, identified and fixed a critical issue in under an hour, preventing both financial loss and potential safety hazards. This is the kind of problem-solving and quick thinking that makes Sterling Tech excellent." The applause started slowly, then built. Jamal sat in the back row, uncomfortable with the attention, but Destiny, who'd been brought over early from school because of the evacuation, squeezed his hand. "You're famous now, Daddy," she whispered. "I just fixed a wire, baby." "No." She looked at him with those serious 9-year-old eyes. "You showed them who you are." That evening, the team invited Jamal and Destiny out for burgers. Real invitation this time, not obligation. They sat in a booth at a place in Midtown, and Destiny charmed everyone with her questions about their jobs and her explanations of her current science project. Brad bought her dessert. Lisa showed her pictures of her own kids. Tom taught her a handshake. Rachel promised to help her with her science fair presentation. And Jamal sat back and watched his daughter fit into this new world better than he ever could, and felt something like hope. Walking home that night, Destiny held his hand and skipped beside him. "Daddy, you know what you told me about when people doubt you show them who you are." "Yeah, baby. You did that today. You showed everybody." She looked up at him. "I'm proud of you." Jamal's throat tightened. "Thank you, sweetheart." "Do you think Mommy's proud too?" He thought about Rashida, about her belief that tough times were just adventures, about how she'd always said he was stronger than he knew. "Yeah, baby. I think she's real proud." That night, after Destiny fell asleep, Jamal sat at their kitchen table and looked at his first performance review from Sterling Tech. Catherine had written exceeds expectations in every category: natural leadership, creative problem solving, and genuine care for both systems and people, recommended for early promotion consideration. 3 months ago, he'd been working double shifts at a warehouse, barely making ends meet. Tonight he was reading a performance review that suggested he might actually belong in this new world. Jamal pulled out his phone and texted Catherine, "Thank you for seeing something in me I didn't see in myself." Her response came quickly. "I didn't see anything that wasn't already there. You just needed the opportunity to show it." He looked at the wedding photo on the side table, Rashida smiling in her simple dress, full of hope for their future, a future she hadn't lived to see. "We're doing it, baby," Jamal whispered. "We're building something, just like you always said we would." 8 months into the job, Jamal had stopped feeling like an imposter. The work had become natural. The team respected him. Destiny was thriving. Life was actually good for the first time since Rashida died. Then everything almost fell apart again. It was a Thursday morning. The quarterly board meeting was happening on the executive floor, the big one where Catherine presented expansion plans to investors. Jamal was on the 47th floor checking a ventilation issue when his radio crackled to life. "Medical emergency, executive boardroom. I repeat, medical emergency." Jamal's blood went cold. He ran for the stairs, taking them 3 at a time, his heart hammering against his ribs. Not again. Please, God, not again. The boardroom was chaos when he burst through the doors. Board members stood in clusters, some on phones, others just frozen in shock. And there, slumped over the presentation table, was Catherine. Doctor. Patricia Chen, Sterling Tech's medical director, was already beside her, fingers on her neck, checking for a pulse. "Someone call 911 now." Jamal pushed through the crowd. Catherine's face was gray, her hand clutched to her chest. Her eyes were open but unfocused, gasping for air that wouldn't come. "Catherine," Jamal dropped to his knees beside her. "Catherine, can you hear me?" Her eyes found his face. Recognition flickered there along with fear. "Help me get her on the floor," Dr. Chen commanded. "We need to start CPR." They lowered Catherine to the carpet, and Jamal's body moved on autopilot. His hands found the center of her chest, one over the other, but this time they were shaking. This time his vision was blurring. This wasn't a stranger on a sidewalk. This was Catherine. "Jamal," Dr. Chen's voice cut through his panic. "I need you focused. Can you do this?" He nodded, swallowing hard. Yes. "Then start compressions. I'll handle her airway. 1, 2, 3, 4. Jamal counted silently, pressing down hard. Catherine's body moved with each compression, and somewhere in his mind he was back on that sidewalk 8 months ago. Same motions, same desperate hope, but completely different fear. Because 8 months ago he'd been saving a stranger. Now he was trying to save someone who'd become family. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He ignored it, kept counting, kept pushing. Dr. Chen gave rescue breaths while someone else cleared the room. 15, 16, 17. His phone buzzed again, then again. "Someone answer his phone," Dr. Chen snapped. Brad grabbed it from Jamal's pocket. "It's his daughter. What do I—" "Tell her there's an emergency." Jamal gasped between compressions. "Tell her Mrs. Chen needs to pick her up." But Destiny must have heard the urgency in Brad's voice, because suddenly she was crying through the speaker. "What's wrong? Is Daddy okay? Did something happen to Miss Catherine?" Jamal's hands faltered, just for a second. Just long enough for Dr. Chen to look at him sharply. "Daddy!" Destiny's voice was breaking. "Tell me what's happening." "Baby!" Jamal's voice cracked. "Something happened to Catherine. I'm helping her. I need you to be brave for me, okay? You have to save her." Destiny was sobbing now. "Like you saved her before. You have to, Daddy. I can't lose her too." The words hit him like a physical blow. I can't lose her too. When had Catherine become so important to them? When had she stopped being the woman he'd saved and become someone Destiny loved? The sirens were getting closer. Jamal kept doing compressions, his arms screaming, sweat dripping down his face. Dr. Chen monitored Catherine's pulse, calling out updates. "Pulse is weak but present. Keep going." The paramedics burst through the door, not the same crew from 8 months ago, but close enough. They took over immediately, attaching monitors, inserting an IV, loading Catherine onto a gurney. "You coming with us?" one of them asked Jamal. He didn't even hesitate. "Yes." In the ambulance, Jamal held Catherine's hand while the paramedics worked around him. Her eyes were closed now, oxygen mask over her face. The monitors beeped steadily, tracking a heartbeat that kept trying to quit. "You stay with me," Jamal said quietly. "You hear me, Catherine? You don't get to give up. Not after everything." At Mount Sinai, Dr. Williams was waiting. She took one look at Catherine, and her expression turned grim. "Get her to the cardiac unit. Prep for emergency bypass surgery." "Wait, what?" Jamal followed them down the hallway. "What's happening?" Dr. Williams pulled him aside. "Catherine has severe coronary artery disease. We've been managing it with medication, but she's been ignoring the symptoms. This is unstable angina. Her heart isn't getting enough blood. She needs bypass surgery immediately. What are the risks?" "It's open heart surgery, Jamal. There are always risks. But without it," Dr. Williams didn't need to finish that sentence. "She should pull through. She's strong. But we need to operate now." They wheeled Catherine toward the surgical prep area. Jamal tried to follow, but a nurse stopped him. "Family only beyond this point." "I am family," Jamal said and realized he meant it. The nurse looked at Dr. Williams, who nodded. Let him say goodbye. Catherine's eyes opened briefly as they paused the gurney. Jamal squeezed her hand. "You're going to be fine. You hear me? You're going to be fine. And then I'm going to yell at you for working too hard and not taking care of yourself." Her lips moved behind the oxygen mask, trying to form words. "Don't talk. Just hold on." Then they took her through the doors, and Jamal was left standing in the hallway alone. Mrs. Chen brought Destiny to the hospital an hour later. His daughter ran to him and wrapped her arms around his waist, her face buried in his shirt. She was still crying. "Is she going to die, Daddy?" "I don't know, baby." Jamal's voice was hollow. "I hope not." They sat in the surgical waiting room for 6 hours. Destiny tried to do homework, but gave up after 20 minutes. Instead, she pulled out her colored pencils and started drawing hearts, detailed anatomical hearts labeled carefully with all the parts she'd learned for her science project. "What are you doing, sweetheart?" "Drawing hearts for Miss Catherine," Destiny said seriously, "so her heart remembers how to work right." Jamal pulled her close, this 9-year-old child who'd already lost her mother and was now terrified of losing someone else she loved. When had that happened? When had Catherine become so woven into their lives that losing her felt like losing family? He thought about that night 3 years ago when he'd sat in a different hospital in a different waiting room while doctors tried to save Rashida. How helpless he'd felt. How the world had ended when they'd told him she was gone. This felt the same, but different. Destiny was older now, more aware of what was happening, and medicine had advanced. They had a chance here, a real chance, but the fear was identical, that crushing terror of losing someone who mattered. "Daddy," Destiny's voice was small. "Do you love Miss Catherine?" Jamal didn't know how to answer that. "She's important to us, baby. But do you love her like you loved Mommy?" He thought about Catherine's Tuesday morning coffee talks. The way she'd championed him when everyone else doubted, how she'd taken such care with Destiny nurturing his daughter's curiosity, how she'd given them not just opportunity, but hope. "I don't know," he admitted, "but I know I can't imagine our lives without her anymore." Destiny nodded like that made sense. "Me neither." At 11:34 p.m. drive, Williams finally emerged from the surgical doors. She looked exhausted, but her expression was calm. Jamal stood so fast his vision swam. "How is she?" "The surgery was successful. We did a triple bypass, 3 blocked arteries we were able to route around. Her heart responded well to the procedure. Barring any complications, she should make a full recovery." Jamal's knees gave out. He sat back down hard, his hands covering his face. A sob tore out of his chest before he could stop it, relief and residual fear and exhaustion all hitting at once. Destiny threw her arms around him. "See, Daddy, you're not weak. You're brave. Brave people cry too." He held his daughter and let himself fall apart just for a minute. Let himself feel the weight of almost losing someone again. Let himself acknowledge how much Catherine had come to mean to them. "Can we see her?" he finally asked. "She'll be in recovery for a few hours, then ICU. You can see her tomorrow morning." Dr. Williams touched his shoulder. "You saved her life again, Jamal. Your CPR kept her stable until we could get her here. You should know that." After Dr. Williams left, Jamal sat with Destiny in the quiet waiting room. His daughter had fallen asleep against his side, her drawings of hearts scattered across the seats. "Thank you," Jamal whispered to whatever force had let Catherine survive, to Rashida watching from wherever she was, to the universe that had given them all a second chance. Tomorrow, Catherine would wake up. Tomorrow, they'd figure out what came next. Tonight, they'd survived, and that was enough. Catherine opened her eyes to the steady beep of monitors and the antiseptic smell of hospital. Everything hurt her chest, her throat. Her entire body felt like it had been taken apart and put back together, which she supposed it had been. The first thing she saw was Jamal asleep in the chair beside her bed. His head was tilted at an awkward angle, one hand resting near hers on the blanket. He looked exhausted, his shirt wrinkled stubble darkening his jaw. How long had he been there? Then she noticed Destiny curled up on the visitor's couch, wrapped in a hospital blanket. Her small hand still clutched colored pencils and papers covered with drawings of hearts. They'd stayed. Both of them had stayed. Catherine tried to speak, but her throat was too raw from the breathing tube. She managed a whisper. "Jamal." His eyes snapped open, immediately alert, despite the exhaustion. "Catherine, hey!" He leaned forward, carefully taking her hand. "You're awake, thank God. How do you feel?" "Like a truck hit me." "That's the triple bypass talking." His attempt at humor didn't hide the emotion in his voice. "You scared the hell out of us." "I'm sorry." Her eyes moved to Destiny, still sleeping. "She shouldn't have to go through this. She's already lost too much." "She loves you. We both." Jamal stopped, his jaw working. "You saved me twice, Jamal. La ne kak." His voice was rough. "Last time you were a stranger, I had to help. This time, I couldn't lose you because you're not a stranger anymore. He stopped again, seeming to struggle with the words. "You're important. To both of us. More than I realized until I thought I might lose you." Catherine studied his face, saw everything he wasn't quite saying written there. Something had shifted between them, and they both knew it. "Jamal, you need to rest. We can talk later." But he didn't let go of her hand. Over the next week, Jamal and Destiny became permanent fixtures in Catherine's hospital room. They arrived every morning before school and work and returned every evening. Destiny would do her homework at the foot of Catherine's bed, occasionally reading aloud from her library books. Jamal would sit quietly, sometimes working on his laptop, sometimes just being there. "Read the part about the heart chambers again," Catherine said one afternoon, her voice getting stronger each day. Destiny lit up and launched into an enthusiastic explanation of cardiovascular function, complete with hand gestures. "And see, that's why your surgery worked. They gave your blood new roads to travel when the old roads got blocked. You're going to be a brilliant doctor someday," Catherine said. "Or a scientist, or maybe both." Destiny paused, then asked with 9-year-old directness, "Miss Catherine, do you have any kids?" "No, sweetheart, I never did." "How come, Destiny?" Jamal warned gently. "It's okay," Catherine smiled. "I was too busy building my company. I thought I had time for family later, but later never came. Now I'm 50 and it's just me." Destiny climbed onto the bed, carefully avoiding the IV lines. "It doesn't have to be just you. You have me and Daddy now." "Baby, that's not," Jamal started. "Could you be my stepmom?" Destiny asked, completely sincere. "I mean, if you wanted to. I never had a stepmom before, but I think you'd be really good at it." Catherine's eyes filled with tears. "Destiny, that's very sweet, but why not?" Destiny looked between them, confused. "You like Daddy. He likes you. I like both of you. That's how families work, right?" Jamal stood abruptly. "Destiny, we should let Miss Catherine rest. Say goodnight." After Destiny left with Mrs. Chen, who'd been waiting in the hallway, Jamal returned to Catherine's room. They sat in awkward silence for a long moment. "I'm sorry about that," Jamal finally said. "She doesn't understand." "What if she does?" Catherine interrupted quietly. "What if she understands something we're both too scared to admit?" Jamal sat back down heavily. "Catherine, I don't know how to do this. I loved Rashida. I still love her. If I move forward with someone else, doesn't that mean I'm leaving her behind?" "No." Catherine's voice was firm despite its weakness. "Jamal, I need to tell you something. I'm falling in love with you. With both of you. I have been for months. And I know you can't replace Rashida. I would never want to. But love doesn't run out," Jamal said softly. "It multiplies. That's what Rashida used to say." She was right. "I'm scared," Jamal admitted. "I'm scared of moving on. Scared of what it means. Scared I'm betraying her memory." Catherine reached for his hand. "You're not betraying anyone by being happy again. You're honoring her by living fully, by giving Destiny a full life. That's what she would have wanted." "How do you know?" "Because if I were her, that's what I'd want for the man I loved." Catherine squeezed his hand. "I'm not asking you to forget her. I'm asking if there's room in your heart for both of us." Jamal was quiet for a long time. Then, "Can you give me some time? There's something I need to do first." "Take all the time you need." That Saturday, Jamal drove Destiny to Woodlawn Cemetery. They'd stopped and bought fresh flowers, yellow roses, Rashida's favorite. The spring morning was cool and clear birds singing in the oak trees. They walked together to Rashida's grave, and Destiny immediately knelt to arrange the flowers. "Hi, Mommy. We brought you pretty flowers, the yellow ones you liked." Jamal knelt beside his daughter, placing his hand on the headstone. For a long moment, he just sat there trying to find the words. "Baby," he finally said, "I need to tell you something. Someone came into our lives, someone good. Someone who's been good to me and Destiny. Someone who makes me want to smile again." Destiny touched his arm. "It's okay, Daddy. You can tell Mommy about Miss Catherine." "You know, I'm 9, not dumb." Destiny smiled. "Mommy, her name is Catherine, and she's really smart and nice, and she bought me like 100 science books, and she makes Daddy happy. You'd like her." Jamal's eyes burned with tears. "Rashida, I'll always love you. Always. You gave me Destiny. You gave me the best years of my life. But my heart, I think it's big enough for 2 people. I hope that's okay. I hope you're not." His voice broke. The wind picked up gently, rustling through the oak tree above them. New spring leaves danced, and one floated down to land directly on Rashida's headstone, right next to the flowers. Destiny gasped softly. "Daddy, did you see that?" "I saw it, baby. That's Mommy saying it's okay. I know it is." Destiny put her small hand over his. "Mommy wants you to be happy. She told me in my dream." "She did. She said you deserve to love again, that she picked you because you have so much love to give, and it would be sad if you kept it all locked up." Destiny looked at him seriously. "And she said to tell you that Miss Catherine is good people." Jamal laughed through his tears, pulling Destiny into a hug. "Your mommy always knew the right thing to say." They sat there for a while longer, the 3 of them, father, daughter, in the memory of the woman who taught them both how to love. The morning sun warmed Jamal's face, and he felt something he hadn't felt in 3 years, permission to move forward without guilt. "Thank you, baby," he whispered to the headstone. "For everything. For Destiny. For teaching me what love looks like. I promise I'll never forget you, but I also promise I'll keep living the way you'd want me to." As they walked back to the car, Destiny slipped her hand into his. "Can we go visit Miss Catherine now? I want to tell her Mommy approves." "Yeah, baby, we can do that." And for the first time since Rashida died, Jamal felt like maybe, just maybe, his heart was ready to love again. 6 months later, on a perfect Saturday afternoon in October, Jamal Washington stood beneath an oak tree in Riverside Park, just a quarter-mile from Woodlawn Cemetery. The choice of location had been deliberate. Rashida would be close in spirit, if not in body. 30 guests sat in folding chairs arranged in a semicircle. Catherine's executive team mixed with Jamal's warehouse friends. Mrs. Chen sat in the front row, dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief. Brad stood as Jamal's best man, looking surprisingly emotional. And there in the front row sat an empty chair with Rashida's wedding photo propped on it, surrounded by yellow roses. Destiny stood beside Jamal in a cornflower blue dress that Catherine had designed specifically for her. She clutched a small bouquet and kept bouncing on her toes with barely contained excitement. "She's coming, Daddy," Destiny whispered. "I can see her." Jamal looked down the makeshift aisle and felt his breath catch. Catherine walked toward them in a simple champagne-colored dress, carrying white lilies. No veil, no train, nothing ostentatious, just her looking more beautiful than he'd ever seen her. But what made his throat tighten was the small gesture she made as she passed Rashida's photo, a slight bow of her head, an acknowledgement, a promise that she wasn't here to erase anyone, just to add to their story. The ceremony was short and personal. The officiant, a friend of Catherine's, spoke about second chances and how love doesn't diminish when it's shared, it multiplies. Then it was time for vows. Jamal took Catherine's hands, his wedding band from Rashida still on his right hand. Catherine had insisted he keep wearing it. "She's part of who you are," she'd said. "I don't want you to put her away." "Catherine," Jamal began, his voice steady despite the emotions. "You didn't replace anyone. You can't replace someone like Rashida. But you showed me that my heart was big enough for another chapter. You're not the end of one story or the beginning of another. You're the continuation, the proof that love doesn't end. It just grows into something new." Catherine's eyes were already shining with tears. "Jamal, before I met you, I thought wealth meant money and success. But you taught me that real wealth is having people to love, people who see you not for what you can provide, but for who you are. You and Destiny gave me a family I never knew I needed, and I promise to honor Rashida's memory by taking care of the beautiful life she built with you. Now, the officiant said, smiling, I believe someone else has something to say. Destiny stepped forward, unfolding a piece of notebook paper. Her hand shook slightly as she read, Family isn't about having the same blood. Family is about choosing to stand together. It's about loving someone even when it's hard. My mommy in heaven picked my daddy because he has the biggest heart. And now Miss Catherine picked us because she has a big heart too. Some kids have one mom. I'm lucky I have two. One who watches from the stars and one who's here to hold my hand. And I think that's pretty special. There wasn't a dry eye in the gathering. Jamal pulled Destiny into a hug, then Catherine joined them, the three of them standing together under the oak tree while the photographer captured the moment. After the rings were exchanged and the kiss sealed their union, Destiny led Catherine to Rashida's empty chair. She placed her small bouquet on it gently. Hi, Mommy, she said clearly enough for everyone to hear. Thank you for sending us, Miss Catherine. I know you're here. I can feel it. The reception was held at their new home in Queens, a 3-bedroom house with a small yard where Destiny could play. Not a mansion, just a comfortable home that felt like theirs. Tables were set up in the backyard for a simple BBQ, the kind of celebration Jamal was comfortable with. Brad stood up to give a toast, looking slightly embarrassed. I'm not good at speeches, so I'll keep this short. When Jamal first joined Sterling Tech, I didn't think he belonged. I was wrong. He taught me that you don't judge people by where they start. You judge them by what they do when given a chance. He's one of the best men I know, and Catherine, you're lucky to have him. We all are. Mrs. Chen went next, her accented English thick with emotion. I watched this family grow from pain. Watched them struggle, watched them survive. Now I watch them thrive. This is what hope looks like. Then Catherine stood, pulling Jamal up with her. I have an announcement. We're establishing the Rashida Washington Memorial Scholarship Fund. It will provide full college scholarships to children from single-parent households who show academic promise but lack financial resources. Because Rashida believed in education, in opportunity, in giving people chances. This is how we keep her alive, by continuing the values she lived by. Jamal couldn't speak. He just pulled Catherine close and let the tears fall freely. She gave you this life, Catherine whispered. I'm just honored to be part of what she started. The party continued into the evening. Destiny was everywhere at once, playing with the neighbors' kids, stealing bites of cake, showing off her new room to anyone who'd listen. At one point, she grabbed a microphone someone had set up for toasts. Can I say something? She didn't wait for an answer. I just want everyone to know I have 3 parents. 1 in heaven, 2 here on earth. And that makes me the luckiest kid ever. She raised her juice box in a toast, and everyone laughed and cheered. As the sun set and guests started leaving, Jamal and Catherine found themselves on the small porch of their new home, watching the first stars appear. Any regrets? Catherine asked, leaning against him. Just one. Jamal looked at the evening sky. I wish Rashida could have met you. I think you two would have been friends. I think she has met me, Catherine said softly. Through you, through Destiny. Every time you show me what love looks like, that's her influence. Every time Destiny teaches me something about life, that's Rashida's wisdom. She's here, Jamal. She's in everything good about this family. Jamal pulled her closer. Baby, he said, looking up at the stars where he liked to imagine Rashida watching. Thank you for teaching me that love never ends. It just grows. Thank you for Destiny. Thank you for showing me how to be strong. And thank you for whatever you did to bring Catherine into our lives. Daddy, Catherine, Destiny's voice called from inside. Come read to me. I want both of you. They looked at each other and smiled. This was their life now. Not perfect, not without its complications, but full. Complete in a way Jamal had never imagined possible after loss. Inside, Destiny was already in bed, her room a mixture of the old and new. Rashida's wedding photo sat on the nightstand. Catherine's science books lined the shelves. Drawings of 3 stick figures, 2 tall, 1 small, covered the walls. They settled on either side of her bed, and Destiny handed them a book about stars and constellations. Read the part about how stars never really die, she instructed. How their light keeps traveling forever. Jamal and Catherine took turns reading, their voices mixing together in the quiet room. When they finished, Destiny was almost asleep. Love you, Mommy Catherine, she murmured. Love you too, sweetheart. Love you, Daddy. Love you, baby girl. And love you too, Mommy Rashida, wherever you are. In the hallway, Jamal took Catherine's hand. Their wedding bands caught the light, his old one on his right hand, his new one on his left. Both mattered. Both belonged. Thank you, he said simply. For what? For being patient. For understanding that loving you doesn't mean forgetting her. For making room in your heart for all of us, including the ghost of a woman you never met. Catherine kissed him gently. She's not a ghost, Jamal. She's part of this family. Always will be. They walked downstairs together past the wedding photos already displayed on the wall. New memories alongside old ones. Past Destiny's artwork showing 3 parents instead of 2. Past the life they'd built from loss and second chances and the simple act of one person stopping to help another on a busy sidewalk. Outside, the city hummed with its endless energy. But inside this small house in Queens, 3 people who'd found each other against all odds finally had what they needed. Not wealth, not status, not perfect circumstances, just love. The kind that multiplies instead of dividing. The kind that honors the past while embracing the future. The kind that proves family isn't about blood, it's about choosing each other every single day. And that Jamal thought as he locked the door and headed upstairs with his wife was the richest gift of all.
Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.